everyone, welcome again to Pixar Discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the Geoff.
And finally, we are back doing Up.
Up.
That's upside down, Geoff. That's upside down. Yeah, up. But this is not an adaptation of that.
But it is a great day for Up.
It is a great. I agree with you, Geoff. It's a great day for Up. Yeah, it's nice outside. The birds are chirping. It's a good day for adventure.
Great day to sing Up on a wire. Up voices, louder, higher.
You know, I really don't think that anybody expected that when they clicked on this video, they would just hear you reading a Dr. Seuss book.
No, we should do a series.
Yeah, a Dr. Seuss series?
Yeah.
Where we spend like half an hour like dissecting Dr. Seuss books and trying to figure out like what they're about and like.
No, I think just a
analyze
really off the wall reading would do.
Oh, just a reading?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. Well, that'd be nice. It'd be nice not to have to think that hard about Dr. Seuss. Yeah. What does this mean? What is this telling us about the society in which we live?
A great day for Up. Symbolizes vertical movement.
Yeah, well, speaking of vertical movement, so today we got Up, and this is the first one of these series, or of these videos we've done in a really long time. Sorry it's taken so long to finally get back to this, but we came up with Pixar Discussions a year ago. We're still not quite finished. We've got, what?
That's right.
Three or four. Yeah, this was a last summer project that has turned into an also this summer project. But yeah, so we've got 3 or 4 movies left, so we're getting there. And today we're gonna do Up, and this was a movie that when I first saw it advertised, I was that when I first see now you're back down there. That when I first saw it advertised, I was like instantly. I was instantly intrigued by it because just the image of the house with the balloons is instantly provocative and strange and whimsical and like oh man, what is this going to be about? But and I said this about Ratatouille, but this one even more so. How do you market this movie? This is like an almost unmarketable movie. This is one of those things where Pixar are clearly getting more and more adventurous as they go along. Yes. Pun intended, adventurous. And
adventure is out there. Right?
As they're going along, they're willing to try more and more things that you could not sell very easily, very readily, without already having that infrastructure in place, without already having the kind of fan following that Pixar had.
And as often, their answer to how do you market this is by not doing it at all, but just having some images that tell no one anything about anything. I mean, the house with the balloons.
But then in some ways, isn't that enough?
That movie, I mean,
isn't just the fact that
it's enticing.
You're gonna see a house on balloons by that studio. That's almost enough.
Before and after watching that promotion, I say to myself, "What on earth is this gonna be?"
Yeah.
I don't know.
But also, isn't that refreshing?
Cryptic kind of.
But isn't it refreshing to go into the theater and have no idea what you're in for? I mean, that was one of the things that sold Cloverfield so well for J.J. Abrams when he had all of these, where he had this one teaser forever that nobody knew what it was. It was just that image of the Statue of Liberty in the street. Oh man, we're in for something. And once the movie came out, people were a little bit more familiar with what the thing was going to be. But like that kind of thing always excites me because I'm so used to knowing more than I want to.
Yeah, usually most movies you see the commercials for, and by the time you've seen the commercials, you've heard every good joke that's in there, you've seen every interesting plot twist, and you know how it's going to end. And boy, did they avoid that here.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so like I just had a really fresh, and I've had this with a lot of Pixar movies, but this one especially, I went in and I had a really kind of fresh new experience. And you know what? And one of the things I think that's really cool about it is that they Pixar is not, especially by this point, they're not building too much of the formula of every time we do a movie, it's gonna be some kind of theme that's easily quantifiable. Where, okay, we did fish, we did robots, we did this, we did toys, we did this. Then you get to Ratatouille, and it's, well, you can't quantify it like that. You get to this,
you cannot make a one-word summary of that movie.
Yeah, because like everybody's making the old guy flying in his house movie.
Yeah,
everybody's.
How many times have we seen that?
Everybody's doing that now, and so that was so instantly it's got a lot of credibility for me walking in because I get to see something I've never seen before. Where does this rank for you?
Oh, I would give it Colonel easily, maybe a major.
but just of your favorites, is it up there? Is it kind of in the middle?
Well, it's got to be up there.
Up there, yeah, right.
I like it a lot better than Russ Meyer's Up, I'll tell you that. No, I like this movie. It's different from the other Pixar movies that I'd seen to date, to this point, in how little of it is jokes.
That's a really good point.
This may be the most serious of the Pixar movies up to this point. And not that the difference is all that great between them, but this one to me was noticeably more about kind of serious things than any of the other ones up to this point.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're not used to watching an animated movie like this and think about your own mortality and all of the things in your life that you wish you'd accomplished that you haven't gotten to, and
even the just grandly effective and impacting opening sequence of Carl and Ellie and their life together. Both adorable and heart-wrenching at the same time.
It's not a montage. You know what it is? It's a silent film.
Yeah.
It's a short silent film. You could have taken, I mean, it would have been a really depressing downer without the rest of this movie, but you could have taken that in the 20s or 30s and put it in the theater and feel like you know these characters.
That's why they put music behind that sequence that sounded a lot like the kind of music that was used for so many of those.
Yeah. Especially the really dramatic ones, and you don't need intertitles or anything. You learn everything you need to know about those characters, and so Geoff, that's 15 minutes in. That's 10-15 minutes in. How many movies have you seen where you feel like you have a fully drawn picture of your protagonist before the ball gets rolling? That's
WALL-E.
You're right, and Pixar is good at this. This is one of the things that they tend to really excel at. But I think in a lot of ways, and it's very easy just whatever the last one you saw to go, oh, this is the best example. This may be the best example of that.
It's certainly a very powerful.
All of the details, man. I mean, like we were talking about this while we were watching the movie. Not only do you have all these details about this couple where you believe the affection they have for each other, you believe the relationship, you believe that it goes beyond just we were kids in this club that we made for ourselves, and you can actually see very quickly the transition between that and romance. You want these people to be your grandparents. You know what I mean? This is the quintessential kind of grandparents, and then how sad is it that they didn't have kids? But then also you get all of this.
Turns out they are nobody's grandparents.
Yeah. You get and that, I think that's a huge factor for the relationship that he has with the kid. But then also it's really functional for the film. You buy that he's able to, at least to a degree. I mean, it's preposterous, but I mean, like, you more believe that he's able to take these balloons and fly his house because it's all set up.
Yeah, the thing floating because of balloons is set up. The steering mechanism with the coffee grinder and the ropes and the bedsheet sails.
I gotta tell you, that I totally missed until you mentioned it. Yeah, that's awesome.
I forget what else, but so much of everything that becomes the engine of this story is laid out in that first sequence, him meeting Ellie as a kid, and then that wife narrative of the pair of them, which, and you don't notice necessarily, at least not the first time, that hey, the story is being set up here, because it also does such a brilliantly powerful job of making you friends with the characters.
Well, it is a story.
Them and helping you feel both what's lovable about them and feel the loss of Ellie, which is what drives Carl through pretty much the entire film, because his turning point is maddeningly delayed.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes in this movie when I first watched it.
He's got a lot of opportunities for change, right, that he's never taken.
Gonna turn around, and then wham! No.
Well, why don't we, since we're there, just go straight there? Do you think that when that finally happens, it clicks too fast?
No.
And do you think it works because he's been resisting it the way he has the whole time?
Because all of the times before then, when he's had a chance to change direction, even though he doesn't yet in any of them, I think they are preparing. I think they are laying groundwork and planting seeds for the change in direction that he finally has.
Yeah, and perhaps this is one of those movies that's more easily to appreciate on a second viewing when you know all that, because you're right. Maybe the first time you see it, I didn't have that so much, but I can totally see why you would. I didn't think about that. Where like it would be kind of irritating maybe to see this guy being so stubborn and like refuse to see what's right in front of his face, but that's him, right? Like that's that character. Isn't this movie about the stubbornness of age?
Yeah.
Isn't it about growing old and not wanting to change, not wanting to move away from what you knew from before? I mean, it's about letting go, but it's also about moving forward.
And this facet of him is not just an age thing. We see
it's not.
From his childhood.
It'd be generic if it was only an age thing.
He's reticent, that he does not jump out and he does not walk on that plank until he gets pushed 3 times.
What a wonderful point, yeah.
And even the little life montage, she's the one who drives him. She's the one. She leads him. She sparks things.
He's always in a shell. Yeah, she's the go-getter.
And this.
But the adventure thing is his outlet for that, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
It was in there, but then there's, I think the part in that opening sequence in the montage that hurt the most is that moment when he's turning and looking at the picture and then looking at his wife who's already getting older and thinking, we've long past our chance to actually do this.
Yeah, we're in denial about it at this point.
And then he turns around and goes and buys tickets.
Yep.
But it's too late because then she dies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think 2 things. I think it's really interesting, first of all, that I think it's really cool for their relationship that the thing that gets it all starting. I mean, it's incredibly romantic, right? Like the way like you just love this couple, and you hardly ever hear her say anything. I mean, I love it. You just love this couple, but she is insisting that he does something proactive. It's not even. I don't even think for her as she grows up that it's as important that they ever go there as it is that she's helping to get him out of his shell.
Well, and we learn at the very end when he finally reads her scrapbook, her adventure book.
That was the second thing I was going to mention, is that I love that it's finally, even after death, her that's spurring him on, helping him to change. That's fantastic. Her presence is felt through the whole movie, and they remain that couple all the way through it.
And it's at that moment that she releases him, and he maybe she expected he would have read that sooner than he finally got around to reading it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But he finally sees this note from her. Thanks for the adventure. Now go have one of your own.
Well, and I wonder this sometimes when we see things like that, if that was the first time he read it, or if it had new meaning now.
And I
think
wondered,
it works either way.
As I watched him today reading that adventure book, had he ever looked at any of this?
Yeah. Why would he?
Did he even know that all these pictures of their life together were in her adventure book? I kind of think he didn't. It plays like this is a revelation to him that for Ellie, it wasn't about going to build that house on Angel Falls. It was Paradise Falls in the movie, but it's Angel Falls in Venezuela is the model for it.
Oh, is it? Okay.
And all the crazy rock formations are really there.
Cool.
They spent 3 days camping in the mountains of Venezuela studying it.
Wow.
But it's that scrap-up moment at the end when he sees these pictures and realizes that for her, their whole life together was the adventure, not just that one thing that they talked about when they were 7.
Yeah.
And
I think
that's part of what allows this to release him and allows him. When I first watched this, I wanted to say this is the point at which his moral compass finally starts working. And I think back on it, I'm not sure that's quite fair to him.
No, because his conscience gets him in a lot of places. He just resists it. And it's often played for comedy. We have the moment where the kid is out on the porch while they're up in midair and please let me in. No, and then finally lets him in. So no, I don't know that he has no moral compass up until that point. I think that he's just simply crotchety up until that point.
Well, that and a compass does not work real well if you're right next to an enormous magnet. Ellie is that enormous magnet for him. He fails to see so many of the things he fails to see because he is still completely stuck on this single one thing. Ellie and the whole everything about his home is an embodiment of her and of his love for her and of everything about her that he really feels the loss of with great pain. And he's so stuck there that this keeps him from seeing Russell, who really does need somebody to pay attention to him.
Yeah.
Boy, does he. And Doug and
I think it's also one of those things where you've got a character who's looking at another character and seeing a little bit too much of himself in him, and he doesn't like that, because I think Russell is very much him when he was a kid.
Oh yeah.
It's not exactly the same because you wouldn't want that, but there's a lot of that. I mean, like he's awkward. He's very in his own head. But he's got this thirst for adventure he's trying to quench, and I mean I think they have, he's very much a young version of that character.
The head shapes tell it all.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Ellie's head is round, and even as young, even when she's old, her head is round, kind of like a balloon.
And Carl's changes.
Carl's, as a tyke, is round, but as he grows up, he squares up.
Yeah,
Russell
that's great.
Is round, like Ellie,
and has the potential to go either direction.
Russell is both young Carl's, and he's also Ellie.
Okay, that's great.
And it's in the shapes, I think.
Yeah, and so you're saying that that Russell is also helping him to remember what it was he loved about his wife so much. I mean, like it's like he's lost perspective. It becomes an abstract concept almost. I also think you
dangerous being in love with a ghost.
You were talking about the direction of the moral compass, and I really like the analogy there, especially because what is this movie if not about direction? And I mean, like we throw the GPS out the window, right? I by the way,
the title is a direction.
I by the way do think that is and by the way, you have to have an optimistic ending with a movie with that title.
Oh gosh, I hope so.
That's a thing. But anyway, I did think it was a little bit convenient that he just happened to throw the GPS out at the moment that we knew it was there.
Well, that didn't happen sooner.
But whatever. It's a funny moment, but it also sort of kind of means something there with the notion of they're lost in multiple ways. But I also think that part of what helps to kind of snap him back into reality and into shape and appreciate what his life has been and where he should go from here is the bad guy.
Yeah.
I think you have to have that. Because the moment that he finally goes back and reads the adventure book and gets that note from her is just after he's been dealing with this other guy who has no perspective and is all about trying to and is clinging to the past and is all about trying to achieve this goal that he's been trying to achieve his whole life, just like our main character.
Yeah.
And he is doing it at the expense of everyone and of all else. And so you have this
do evil to achieve this.
Precisely, and for him, of course, it's all about his reputation. And for Carl, for our guy, it's all about fulfilling a promise. So immediately, one of these is a selfish thing, and one of these isn't. So we already have a guy who's got his heart more in the right place because of what is motivating things, right? But also, I think that probably helps to put it into perspective. I think that you need that maybe Carl needs that contrast where he sees, here's a guy, and I like that they don't spell it out. Yeah. It's just there, but it's like here, and it also helps that it was his childhood idol, right?
Right.
Here's a guy that I respected and who I wanted to grow up and be just like. And now I have the opportunity to continue on that path and become just like this guy. Yeah. And that's bad.
That's not a good thing.
Yeah. It would have been really easy for this thing to look like really generic villain plot. I think it's very important what the motivation is. I think what the bad guy is trying to achieve. Because it could have just been, okay, movies have bad guys. We'll make it his like childhood idol because isn't that somehow kind of neat? But it's like some kind of take over the world plot or something. Yeah. I'm really glad it isn't that. I'm really glad that it's still about the same thing it is for Carl, trying to achieve this thing that he never did, that he thinks has to be done before he dies. And this is all about being late in life and feeling unfulfilled.
Yeah, it spelled out so nicely with the cane and sword battle between the two.
Yeah.
Deploy dentures. But they,
which is hilarious the way that's played for Epic, by the way.
Yes,
I love the music in that. It kind of reminds me of the whole thing with the Incredibles when you've got Mr. Incredible and like he needs to get his back pop in the middle of that fight with the robot. Yeah. My God, you pulled Omnidroid out of nowhere. Well done.
Omnidroid 10.0. I want to get back to that music, but
yeah.
I like this as a story, having the bad guy be not a guy whose goal is to do a thing that is bad. I mean, okay.
It is bad. But
we may discuss the moral value of collecting a specimen of some strange species from South America and taking it
super rare and to just gutting it for a skeleton,
museums or whatever, but. I mean, it's not like he's trying to blow up the world or enslave the population or.
No, he's more on
banks or anything.
He's more on a Cruella de Vil kind of level.
He's got a mission, and what's bad about him,
right? Apparently, animal cruelty villain is now just like is a thing. That's a category of supervillain now, Jeff.
And it wouldn't even have to be cruelty. I mean, maybe his intention was to, put it in a zoo or something and feed it and give it water and.
Maybe so.
I mean, it wouldn't have had to have been, and maybe at first it wasn't.
Yeah, well, and actually, because the first time he probably just found that skeleton.
Yeah, he found the skeleton. Okay. The skeleton wasn't enough. That's why he needed a live one. to prove that this creature exists.
And so the only reason Carl's going up against him is because he's developed an affection for this character, for this bird character.
And because Muntz's obsession with the bird leads Muntz to start taking action that genuinely puts him and Russell and the bird and Doug
to totally kill that guy. Yeah.
In real danger. But the point where I was going is that it's not the thing he wants that makes him evil, but the fact that he's willing to do evil to achieve it. And that's what makes him a villain.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just as
when I said that the motivation is really important, I just mean in the way that it parallels with Carl's motivation. I mean, I think it's important for his character that what they want is very similar.
Yeah, not identical, but it's easy enough to see the parallel, and that I think helps show the contrast between Carl, who comes off at first as rather nasty, and kind of thaws, and Muntz, who at first seems perfectly benevolent, and turns out to be nuts.
Well, and actually, maybe what I should say is that it's less about what exactly the motivation is, and more about that neither one of them is any more relevant.
Yeah.
Right? That like what Carl's big opportunity for change, the big thing he's got to learn is that the time to do the thing he wanted to do has passed, and he still has time left to achieve other things. You know, and also that he is. I mean, like I think the message. I mean, there's lots of stuff, but I mean, like I think if you had to slap a capital M message on this movie, it's that life itself is the adventure. Is that regular just life. There's like is interesting, and if you focus too much on trying to do like the one big crazy impossible thing, you'll waste it. You'll spend all your life not noticing all the cool stuff that's passed you by.
Exactly. I mean, Carl and Ellie
and that's precisely what the bad guy does. I mean, he hasn't lived a life now.
Gets in a blimp and goes to South America. He swears on his blood that he will never come back until he can bring the bird with him.
That's all he cares about now. Yeah, he's not living life.
He becomes a monomaniac immediately. And Carl and Ellie, they get married, they go places, they have picnics, they look at clouds.
And I love that obsession doesn't drive him their whole life. I mean, because it would have been a really depressing movie if it had been like that. It was like he wasted his whole life and never spent any time with his wife because he was trying to like make too much money to go on this trip. Like it was more just, I think that pretty quickly they probably knew it was never going to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean,
and were trying anyway because they always said they would, and because that is such a profound thing for their relationship.
I mean, you see him.
They keep saving money up, but
you see them decide to start saving money. You see them, as adults, pick a jug, and label it, and start throwing their change into it. They hadn't always been doing that,
right?
So I mean, this thing is there throughout their life, but it isn't the only thing.
And you see, like I said, you see them live a life together,
and his redemption comes at the end when he gets this message from her that this was the adventure. Yeah.
And that it's okay to move on. I'm not around anymore, but you should get to continue because you're it's almost like she gives him permission.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that that's the reason
I needed that.
And I got to tell you, that's the reason I asked you if you thought that the change came too quickly, because I think if you read it wrong, it might look that way. Where he reads that and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you're my dog," and he likes the bird and all of that stuff. But I think part of what's also going on there when she says, "Go have another adventure," he's been having one and not appreciating it.
Yeah.
He didn't just go out to that place they always wanted to go to. he's been doing stuff. He's been having an adventure.
Multiple.
He met a talking dog, and he found this bird that was super ultra rare that nobody thinks even exists. And he's been floating around in a house, and I mean, just there's like and he's had multiple close calls. Like he's had this amazing adventure, and then all up to that point, he was refusing to let himself enjoy it. And that's the moment where he realizes, holy crap, I know this guy's trying to kill me, but this is awesome. This is what I always wanted.
The adventure is actually happening.
And so that's when he kind of lets himself be imbued almost with her spirit a little bit at that point. He goes, you know what, I'm gonna approach this, because you can't have a split-second attitude change like that. It's not that his whole self is different. He goes, you know what, I'm gonna look at it differently. I got a different attitude about it now. I'm gonna look at it like my wife would looked at it.
And here's the difference that change in attitude makes. And turns out it can make a pretty big one. This moment also, I think, the other reason that I didn't feel like it was too quickly is that and there's also the fact that he has this epiphany after finally successfully landing the house right on the spot where it should have been in the picture.
Oh, and that's a good point. I didn't even pick up on that.
And he sets up the furniture back up in the chair and sits in his chair.
Okay, sure.
Like he always dreamed they would be together, except of course she's not there. And is now reading the adventure book. He achieved the thing that he set out to achieve. And you have that several seconds where his life's ambition is now realized, and it is so completely empty.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack is silent, the music has stopped, and it's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This moment there.
It's so good that the movie
got what I wanted.
It takes its time in that scene and lets you feel that along with them, where it's like this is magically supposed to feel a certain way and it doesn't.
Yeah. And
that's why when he changes his mind about everything, he starts throwing all of his furniture out. I don't know how I didn't pick up on that's the same spot. I didn't pick up on that. Thank you for saying that, because now I'm like, oh, so when he sets those chairs up outside and the camera lingers on it for a minute, there's a point to be made there. So like that's empty. The chairs are empty. That's not what matters. He achieved it, and that's great and all, but that's not the important part.
And you don't see it, and it isn't really made clear until later that in fact is the spot next to the waterfall.
Yeah.
And then he gets the house back in the air again, and they have their dogfight and all. And
you've been waiting this whole video to do that.
Yeah. And they, and it ends with them with the hose coming off, and the house plummets down below the clouds, and I don't know if he even is aware that it happened to land again right on that spot.
Yeah.
Over the furniture, so that, conveniently forgetting about there being a floor, the chairs would be inside the house.
Yeah.
Probably in exactly the same position he would have set them. It's like this scene is perfectly that scene that they drew when they were kids.
Yeah, that's neat.
She's dead, and he's not living in that house anymore. He lives in a blimp.
And I mean, yeah, it's not perfectly realistic. That's all kind of convenient, but it is that kind of movie. It's that kind of world.
Yeah. And one does have to cut a lot of slack on the physics. Okay. Because.
But also just like thematic stuff lining up like that for an image. I don't know, man.
That's called fiction. That's why fiction is fiction.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we need it.
Some people don't like that kind of thing. I appreciate that kind of thing, especially when it's realized that way, because this is an intimate story about this guy, and that kind of imagery tells you something.
And it's a part of him. But I think that plays some role in the fact that he is able, when he is finally able, to turn about. He has actually gotten to that goal. He's realized his dream and found that having realized his dream at the cost of abandoning the kid and the dog and the bird is a bitter thing, not a joyful thing, because getting the thing you wanted by bad means poisons the thing you wanted.
Yeah.
Which is what moral people know that villains don't. That's why villains are never happy.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
They never cherish the little things.
Pulling back a little bit, this is a really interesting choice because you don't see a lot of kids movies where the protagonist is an elderly person. And that's a thing that I instantly appreciated about it, is that they weren't afraid of that. Yeah. They just went there, and I think that there is it's not super blatant, but I think there is a little bit of old people still matter kind of message in this, where like your life isn't over past a certain age, and it's something he has to learn. And so then the audience can come to appreciate really, that too.
At the beginning, and we see him getting out of bed, creaking, and riding his lift thing down the stairs.
Yeah.
Here's somebody who has pretty much accepted the fact that he's an old guy now, his life is over.
It's over.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like a lot about this movie, it's a good example of something I like about all the Pixar movies so far. It's not a kid's movie. It's a movie that kids can watch and they'll have a good enough time with it.
No, you're absolutely right.
There's nothing in it that's inappropriate for kids.
Well, and it's a movie that's perfectly acceptable to even aim at them in advertising and merchandising and stuff. But
there's nothing in this movie that is inappropriate for adults.
Right.
And there's a lot in this movie for an adult audience.
And it doesn't skimp on the real human stuff.
Yeah.
And like we said with a lot of the Pixar movies, it allows for subtlety. With the montage at the beginning, it doesn't, or the silent film as I called it, it doesn't feel the need to have a narration. It doesn't have to tell you. It doesn't matter what she died of. It doesn't matter what exactly the complications were that ruined their pregnancy. None of that. Well, the sense I got was that it was a miscarriage.
Could be.
Because why would you start building a nursery before she's pregnant? And they have.
So she was,
because the sense I got was that she was already, because the doctor talks to her and then she's in tears. I got the sense that she'd already gotten pregnant, which made that really powerful, I thought. But I love how it just plays in the scene, and it just plays visually. It's just a wonderful example of visual storytelling. They don't have to spell all that kind of stuff out for you. Adults in my audience, I saw it opening weekend. Adults in my audience were bawling during that.
Well, yeah.
It's really heavy stuff. And the movie that Pixar that people were first really talking about, holy crap, these aren't for kids anymore, was Incredibles, where they were willing to go places that were pretty adult, not super dark or anything. Just it felt like actions had real consequences. The stakes felt right. There was a mortality to it. Death was talked about. You get into this, and death is happening.
The issues that are real issues to adults are there.
Yeah.
And not hidden.
And personally, and different people will feel differently about this. Personally, I think this is a wonderful sort of way to bring these ideas to children.
Yeah.
I really do. It was something I had growing up. There were certain key movies that I saw that made me think about these sorts of things for the first time. Books too,
Yeah.
but certainly film. I'm thinking of things like American Tail and stuff like that, and things that were kind of for kids but were very adult about things. And made you think about the ugly side of life and mortality and stuff, without trying to make you depressed about it. Movie.
That it's there.
Certainly, but just that it's there, and these are things that these are things that kids at some point or another are gonna have to start thinking about. You can't shelter them forever. You can't candy coat it forever. Just the idea that a thoughtful kid might, at a young age, watch this movie and think about what it's like to get old and what that means.
And some things about what growing up is about.
Yeah, and then guess what? You have plenty of time to do it right.
Maybe the fact...
So it's a really good message, but it's also not too messagey of a movie. And I think that kind of thing is really important for kids' movies. So I don't know. I'm gonna argue with you slightly by saying no, it is a kids' movie. It's great for adults, but it also needs to be a kids' movie. Kids need to see movies like this.
Yeah, it should be, and it's an example of a movie that works as a kids' movie without being exclusively a kids' movie. And that's an important
It's not a kids' movie in the
distinction.
sense that adults wouldn't get it, or that it's only fun if you have a juvenile kind of sense of humor.
And I think back to the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, and then the cartoons of that era, the old ones that were when cartoons came before movies.
You're talking 40s.
Yeah, 30s, 40s, when cartoons were basically aimed at the adult audience and not a children's audience at all.
That's right.
Except for the fact that there was always a possibility that children would be there. And then the transition coming into the 50s and into the 60s, and certainly in the 70s, when cartoons become for kids and for kids only,
And by that
exclusively juvenile.
By that you mean dumbing it down.
Dumbed down. Yeah, dumbed down pretty much sums everything up about the process.
But yeah, not funny past a certain age, not really being about anything.
Something that no one with any mental sophistication
could
possibly enjoy. And I think
no comedy, no joking analysis about anything. I don't mean everything has to be social commentary, but you had that in the 30s and 40s.
At least have something to say about something.
About something, yeah, sure.
And sometimes I wonder if the disappearance of entertainment that is multi-generational is one of the reasons that our society today has so few actual grown-ups.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big, bold statement.
Because here's a generation, it's my generation, largely, and probably about the next one after it, who grew up without exposure to anything kind of entertainment as a child that was helpful in bridging the gap.
Wow.
It was either the kids stuff, and then at some point you started being allowed to watch the grown-up movies, but there's no bridge, there's no how do you get here from there. And
I have a hard time arguing with that. I feel like
drinking, cussing, smoking, and having a lot of sex become the badges of grown-upitude. And, well, that's just what being a grown-up is. The end. This hole in entertainment, which a movie like Up actually jumps into and fills.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, sure.
The development of that gap, I think, has an enormous sociological impact on America.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And I feel like there are...
I'll take my PhD now, thank you.
There are things... You're not even getting it in that, okay? You're working on yours in something else. You're working on a PhD, aren't you?
DMA.
Oh, okay, but it's a doctorate.
It is.
Okay, all right, I knew it. So he's like, well, I don't care. I want a PhD right now for that.
But
Hey, Well done, by the way. I couldn't have begun to word that any better. I do think that I was maybe slightly luckier than you in when I grew up, because I think that some of those gaps were starting to be filled a little bit in the 90s.
Yeah. It's the beginning of a turnaround.
There was some stuff, and I feel like there's still some stuff. There's not enough.
No.
Most certainly, and the stuff that a lot of what seems to be most popular seems to be the kind of dumbed down stuff. But I don't want to be pessimistic about it. I feel like there is some cream that rises to the top, but I feel like that's why this stuff is as popular as it is.
The thing that saved me is that some of the very old cartoons were still being aired on Saturday mornings. They used to have cartoons on Saturday mornings on TV, and Ancient in syndication, and shining forth as something that was actually funny compared to all of the new cartoons being made.
Well, don't get me wrong. I love silly '80s cartoons. There just wasn't enough that was really sparking thought. But then you get into the '90s, and I mean, like you didn't get this stuff till you grew up. Like when you were growing up, you didn't get Pinky and the Brain.
No.
You didn't get Animaniacs. You didn't have Batman the Animated Series. I mean, like, this is stuff that's challenging kids, man. Like,
I had the Smurfs.
And I know you have an appreciation for that stuff because you watched it when you grew up. You went back and watched it.
Yeah, My Little Pony.
Yeah, well,
the original version.
They have that now, but
before it became the Powerpuff Girls in horse form.
Yeah.
Nothing against that.
Well, that was really. I don't know what else to add to that. But I agree with you. So what else should we say about this?
Good example of a musical technique. From the beginning, when they're kids, there was this little da 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 da, this little piano melody that through the opening silent film, we hear that melody kind of progressively orchestrated as they grow up. This tune grows up. This is something that the guy who did the score for Lady and the Tramp talked about in some of the About the Film.
That is so interesting.
The dog's melody grows up as the dogs do.
The soundtrack of this movie reminded me of Lady and the Tramp in places, and I'm really surprised you mentioned that.
I think there are some connections back. The folks making this were in close touch with the last of the 9 old men from Disney, Ollie Johnston and Grant, and some of those guys who were the animators, the fathers of all animators.
Yeah.
From way back in there. And through the rest of the movie, this little melody, everything really musically comes out of it. Even the fight music, the combat music, the scary house bashing into mountains kind of music, the dogfight music, it's all kind of derived from this unifying theme, especially where the house is there. The first opera that was really big and well known to make a lot of hay out of this is probably Bizet's Carmen. It has this 4 or 5 note tune that Bizet calls the Fate motive, and through the whole opera this tune is showing up in transformations and becomes the base of many of the songs that people actually sing. Wagner later on is known for this. He calls them leitmotifs, and
it's like
John Williams does this a lot in the Star Wars movies.
It's like Super Mario World.
It is.
Because every level in that game is using that same melody and working around it. Anyway, that's not comparable to what you're talking about. I just thought I would say that because it's fun. But to your point, though, this is somewhat contrary to the way we do a lot of film music now. Because, a lot of the time you hear a lot of the same kind of permeating melodies, but a lot of the time we assign a melody for different characters, which I think is also a really cool way to do it. But it's like, okay, like you mentioned Star Wars. Yeah, there is some of that, but you also have, whenever Darth Vader's on screen, he has his theme, and the Emperor has his theme. In this movie, the bad guy doesn't really have his own theme, I don't think.
No, there's just that one tune that serves as a
and I think that's
golden thread.
Incredibly appropriate because this is not an epic. I mean, there are places where it sort of feels like it just in scale, but what is, or just in,
it's not a Wagnerian story.
What we get to see, it's not this big sprawling kind of everything's in peril kind of story.
It's the fact that all the characters are Aryans.
It's about one guy, and I think it's important to note that with what you're talking about with the music, because it helps keep us in his head.
Yeah.
It's all this is a POV thing. It's all from his perspective. We rarely ever get away from him, and so
it's the Ellie tune.
Yeah.
That is in his head through everything that he does.
Yeah, exactly. And so the movie is helping us look at things the way he is looking at things.
She is the idée fixe.
Blink. I don't know that one.
Fixed idea.
Okay, thank you. I'm rusty. It's been a while since I've heard that one. I was like, I know that, but I don't. Yeah.
Well, for all the rusty, here's WD for you.
Geoff, everybody thinks I'm smart, so you come on.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I have a whole lot else to say myself.
I really like the distinction they drew.
Yeah.
With the dogs, between the talking cartoon dog and what these are, who are actual dogs, whose, thanks to a gimmicky device, whose thoughts somehow are made audible to us, but which are still definitely dog thoughts.
Yeah, and that's
the dogness
fun.
And how they think is always apparent.
That's fun, but there still is a certain degree. There is still a certain degree of personification. I'm glad that in the world that we're given, that I don't think this would have worked. I mean, it's a strange choice. Don't get me wrong. I don't know why they went with talking dogs. It's hilarious. I don't know that there's any kind of thematic thing they're doing with that in relation to our main characters. I don't know why it's dogs.
The dogs were there before Russell was added to the story.
Really? That's so weird. Well, anyway,
and Kevin.
But the thing with the dogs is it's a good thing they're not just straight up talking dogs. Because
that would blow this thing up completely.
It would, because you get this this great opening thing, and you're like everything feels very real on a human emotion level, and then all of a sudden you got freaking talking dogs. No, but it is still a kind of a cartoon world ultimately, because just because you could even if you could translate dogs' thoughts into real speech, which it seems to me like the thoughts would be so rudimentary that there'd be no way that would work anyway. But I mean, they're flying airplanes and playing poker, Geoff.
Yeah, and that one is totally winning.
I love
dogs
that.
Playing poker.
Yeah, well, you have to do that. It's obligatory.
Yeah, if dogs,
you have to have that. If that had been a deleted scene, we would have all cried foul. No, you have to put that in there. That's not right.
May have been the reason for that whole concept. I don't know, but I really enjoyed the way that dogs think.
Oh yeah, I'm with you. Well, and that's been a curiosity that I've seen played in a lot of cartoon things.
And I love you.
But the thing is, I've seen this played in a lot of cartoon things, like the what would a dog actually say if the way they actually behave. I've actually seen this a lot. I'm not saying that the movie isn't clever with it. I'm just saying it's not new. It's I don't know. I don't know what. I guess I don't personally get the fascination with it. I'm not even criticizing it so much as just what is the cartoon fascination with what do dogs think?
I don't know. Maybe it's because enough people have dogs.
Yeah.
Enough people talk to their dogs. Some to excess.
Yeah, and people see them as members of their family and that kind of thing. So yeah. Well, and there is something inherently amusing, I suppose, about the way that dogs are paying attention to one thing, and then suddenly their attention gets diverted, and then they jump back to the thing they had before. That's the thing I wanted to mention too, real quick. That there's a lot of Pixar always has really sophisticated humor. There are places even when a Pixar film will begin to broach what I would consider potty humor, they never go all the way. They never actually do it. They're incredibly classy about that kind of thing. There's
lightness of touch.
Yeah, they're delicate about it. There's a scene in this that does that, and it's legitimately funny. And I feel like another studio would have gone all the way with it, and it would have been gross.
And it has as good an excuse to be there as you could wish for.
Well, yeah, because
it makes sense.
Yeah, well, it's about how do you go to the bathroom in the woods, and I think it's cool. Again, it helps to add a legitimacy to the whole situation, because how often do you see this kind of scenario and that's never brought up? How do we eat? How do we go to the bathroom? That kind of thing, and it's about wilderness survival, so that stuff ought to be in there. It gives it more credit, more credibility.
On the flip side, how often do we see
when you have a Boy Scout actually doing camping stuff? But I'm sorry, what was I saying?
And conversely, how often do we see things like this wedged into scenes just because we need to get a poop joke in here because poop is funny?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And again, thank you, Pixar, for not thinking like that.
But anyway, I mentioned that just to mention this, which is with sophistication of humor. There's a lot of things that Pixar that this movie did that I was thinking about with other Pixar movies, where they will do jokes, and I will try to figure out why they're funny, and I can't figure out why they're funny. And I love that feeling, the primal, kind of instinctual, this is just funny, and you can't even begin, if you try to dissect it, it's not gonna work. So you have the joke of, and then, this gets me every time, no matter when it's used, of somebody narrates something and then says, this person said this, and then immediately after that, the person actually says that. Why is that funny?
You can't think of a reason.
But it's funny every time, and I don't know why. I love that feeling. And this movie had that in spades.
It's good to remember sometimes that what makes us laugh really is not quite definable.
Yeah. That it's an impulse.
You can kind of try to pretend you're trying to understand my humor, but something about it cuts below us.
Yeah. And it's not a science any more than any other emotions are, right? We have a hard time quantifying, I know this isn't exactly the same kind of thing, but we have a hard time quantifying exactly how rage and hate should play in our lives. That's an emotion that is natural, and people want to think is a thing that you should completely quelch and never use, but then it is sometimes a thing you need, right? And so there's
that would be the point of Mirror Mirror.
Yeah. That's my favorite example.
Or what was the one where he split into?
No, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not Mirror Mirror. I knew what you were talking about. It's Enemy Within.
The Enemy Within.
The Enemy Within. Yeah. We're talking about Star Trek. But you see what I'm saying? Sometimes these emotions we can't completely, and we want to think that somehow we're more enlightened if we can write a paper that completely explains how everything works, but we can't do that.
They are, and I think laughter.
It's not a science.
And part of the reason it's important too is it cuts under us and reminds us that the rationality that we possess as more or less rational creatures is not enough by itself to make us masters of the universe.
Yeah.
That we know a thing or two. That doesn't mean we know it all. It doesn't even guarantee that we will be able to know it all. And it's valuable to be reminded of that, especially as our technology progresses farther and farther, and we get more and more enraptured by the amazing things we're able to do that the previous generation couldn't.
Well, and when we look at fiction, this is the reason that people will not accept a really heavy, serious movie sometimes that has no joy or levity in it whatsoever, because that's not life. People diffuse tense situations with comedy. Things are inherently funny even in the most dire of situations. We understood this at antiquity. It's why we've got the masks of comedy and tragedy. You need both. Sometimes the balance is tough. Sometimes you're gonna have a lot more tragedy than you are comedy. But there's a reason that that scene in A Beautiful Mind where the couple just suddenly starts cracking up in the middle of a really tense scene totally works, because that happens.
That's humans.
Yeah. So anyway, well, everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. Geoff, I didn't look up to see what the next one is.
PS3.
Is it? It's Toy Story 3. All right, cool. So
2010.
And you have not seen that movie yet.
I have not seen that one.
Geoff somehow missed it and has never seen that, so that's going to be really fun. So are you gonna watch it ahead of time, or are you gonna talk about it for the first time?
Nope.
Oh, very cool.
That's my policy on this whole series. I do not pre-watch.
Okay, even if you've never seen it before.
Well, this will be the first time I've first tested that, but
yeah.
My plan is not to pre-watch it before we watch it together.
Are there any others? Cars 2? No, you've seen that.
I think that's the only one I never saw.
Oh, okay. So you haven't
seen the Pixar run.
Okay. All right. Cool.
There's plenty of other movies that I've never seen.
That's true. Well, anyway, everybody, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it, and we will try to be with you.
And I'm the Geoff.
I'm not done. I gotta say Captain Logan first, and then you say, okay, we're gonna try this again. All right. Well, everybody, thanks so much for watching. You just no talking. No. We're gonna try not to take months and months in between this one and the next one, and we'll try to be with you as soon as humanly possible. I am Captain Logan. Now. Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah. Now it's good.
And I'm the Geoff.
We'll see you next time. No, it goes the other way. It's not you hit yourself with the face. It's you go to your head and then you go away from your head. There's less injury. There's less possibility of injury that way. No, that's
the Third Rock.
I was gonna say, have you been watching Third Rock or something? Wow.